is Fenna. Welcome to Following Fenna. I am a certified coach and counselor, and I work with people in a limerent episode and also with their partner. Now, different advice on how to handle a partner in limerence. What do you do? Do you stay or do you go? And since you're watching this video, I assume you are the victim of limerence, as in your spouse or partner is in limerence or you suspect them to be in limerence. They are obsessively infatuated with someone else, and they generally show little empathy towards your feelings or even towards their kids. Maybe they're even talking about separating. I assume you already are familiar with the term limerence and your whole world is upside down. Now, what people logically do is they scroll the internet. They read, they absorb everything there is out there about limerence. Now, if you did that, you might have noticed that there is different and even contradicting advice. Do I stay with my limerent partner or do I leave? What will increase the chance of our relationship to survive? And in this video, I will explain to you what the different advice is, why they give this, and I'm also going to give you my advice on that. And here we go. Okay, your beloved partner dropped the bomb on you, or maybe you found out. In any case, they are irrationally in love with someone else. Usually it doesn't really make sense. Maybe the other person is 20 years younger. Maybe this is, decided in a couple of weeks. Maybe the other lives in another country. Or maybe the other person they're in love with doesn't even reciprocate. Here are some of the limerent cliches. The other, and we call them the limerent object, is much older. In most cases, they're much younger than your partner. Your partner told you that they are just friends. But you do see radical changes in your partner, in their appearance, probably, but for sure in their behavior. You see mood swings and an obsession with their phone. In general, they don't really seem to care anymore, or not that much, for your feelings. And all the empathy that was once there is gone. They neglect the kids. They are completely focused on themselves. And they will tell you things like, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Or, now is the time to choose myself. I've always chosen others. Or, I was unhappy for a really long time. Or, we were never really a good fit now that I look back. They are insanely defensive towards their limerent object. And they can list some of the many things that you did wrong or what is wrong with you. Or even things that you did wrong during the marriage. And sometimes those are things that happened 10 or even 20 years ago. Like, yeah, you remember then and you did such and such and I couldn't forgive you and this has always stuck with me. They call their so-called new bestie their soulmate. Sometimes they even talk about how great or sexy they are. They demonize you. And maybe they talk about taking actions to leave. Now, since we learned that limerent can be a temporary state with somewhat predictable phases, we have the glimmer, the infatuation, the crystallization where they demonize you, the deterioration when things start to fall apart, and the grief and the healing stage and coming out of the limerent fog phase, as I call it. And of course, the idea that limerence is temporary gives a lot of hope. and the statistics for your partner to be happily ever after with this person, with their limerent object, are very small. But how do you approach this? How do you make the chance as big as possible for your relationship to survive? And I hope you know that this is an addiction to another person. But what should you do? And I know there is different advice from different channels here on YouTube. One advice is withdraw as much as possible. Let them go, let them leave. If they want to leave, cut off all contact if possible, close the door on them, and basically then sit back and wait for them to come back to you once they started to realize what they're missing. Now, there's also the advice, no, stall the separation as much as possible. Try to stay under the same roof, don't kick them out, stall, endure, and keep things as much as possible as they are. Now, the last advice, stall, postpone, keep them in the house, don't divorce. I get that. This is based on the idea you don't need to fix what is not broken. If you want to stay married to this person, it's easier to stay married than to divorce and marry again maybe afterwards. If your partner stays in the house and they come out of the limerent fog, at least they will be still in the house. The damage is not that big and there is less to repair. There's less reparation to be done. There's less to repair. And like I said, that does make sense. Now, if your partner already moved to another country and you are divorced and the kids are feeling abandoned and they feel rejected, it's harder for them to say after a while, sorry, I made a mistake. Can we talk about when I can move back in? But of course, this advice only goes if your partner chooses to stay and not divorce. The other advice is remove yourself from their sight. Don't be their friend. Don't be their support system, even though that's tempting. But don't support them while they are living up with the other person. Completely focus on your own well-being, ignore them, and of course think about the kids, but drop from the face of the earth if possible. Let the grief kick in one day and sit back and watch them come back to you. That advice is, if doable, is more based on how attraction works. Because we mammals are, like nothing else, attracted to scarcity. And I'll explain why also. This is due to several psychological reasons. We have social factors like perceived value. Scarcity increases perceived value. When something is rare and limited in its supply, all people tend to view it as more desirable. And this principle is known as the scarcity heuristic. We often believe that something less available is more valuable. So if you remove yourself, you become more scarce. Then there's always the fear of missing someone, of missing something. The fear of missing out can drive people also towards scarce items or experiences. Then we have social proof. When people see that something is scarce, it can signal that others desire this as well. And then we also have the competition and status, because limited resources can create a sense of competition. Now, there is psychological reactance when people perceive that their freedom to choose is being restricted. They may become more attracted to what is scarce, what is the scarce choice. And of course, there are all kinds of evolutionary factors, because from an evolutionary standpoint, scarcity can indicate that you have to work really hard for a mate or for food. These resources such as food or mates who are extremely valuable also were scarce. Besides all this, they can start to miss you / grieve you when you are not there. They can start to grieve when you're not there holding their hand. So now you know why there are 2 different types of advice out there here on YouTube, and you will have to see which one fits your situation best. If your partner is still there, not really maybe talking, but not really taking action in separation, and there are kids around, it's more logical to go for advice number 1. Still postpone, keep things like they are as much as possible, while keeping your boundaries, of course, but basically sit it out if you can. And I know that is a lot to ask for. I know that's really difficult. But when they do take action for divorce and they are moving out, I would advise you to add to the long-term pressure to not be there anymore. You can say something like, hey, this separation or divorce is not my idea. And if you ever want to have a serious talk about what happened here and what happened in my relationship and with you, maybe we can see if we can fix things. But for now, when you want to go, I'm also going. I'm going to live my life. I wish you all the best. And then you leave. The best thing would be to drop from the face to the earth as much as possible and don't be their friend. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but pressure, they will feel pressure if you are not there. It will build up. And I know when I say, talk to them and say to them, okay, this is the divorce or separation is not my choice and I'm going to let you go. I know that's not realistic because you probably already did screaming and yelling and begging and crying and asking and trying to convince them not to leave and trying to reach them and talk some sense into them and expressing your anger and your emotions. That's normal. You're human. But I'm here to give you the best advice and give you the best options. So if they are maybe saying they're leaving, but they're not really taking action, you can keep things as much as possible if that's doable, and you can carry that. And if they are removing themselves away from you, finding houses, renting houses, moving out, etc., then you let them go and remove yourself, because the pressure will build up, and that will not build up overnight. It will take a long time, maybe even months, but the pressure will build up if suddenly you disappear, because that's not how we're wired. We're not wired to deal with, someone who once was really important. They drop from the face of the earth and you never think about them again. Maybe even if they're not thinking about you at this time, they will think about you after a while. Please leave a comment if you are in this situation and you want something to share, because we want information from you who are experiencing this. And maybe you want to share what you did or which decision you think about taking. For now, I want to thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.